Episode 6, pushing the limits. End of the year, 2024, G.
Here we are. It's almost Christmas, almost New Year's.
Dude,
Can't believe
how
it's...
weird is it, man? Like, we started this, 4 months ago?
Honestly, I really don't remember when it was in, the summer or something. It feels like it was 2 or 3 weeks ago and already months.
Bro, we've
time
had some
flies.
amazing guests. Obviously, Eva just came through, Stephen Clifford. We can't forget Jamal and the Moroccan one. And we'll do a highlights, and there's people that we definitely want to shout out. But we wanted to end this one as a Christmas holiday special with a legend, a GOAT, someone that we genuinely wanted on. A lot of people requested him. I know that me and you were talking about it for ages, and we were like, man, we need this guy on this podcast. And he came on a Saturday afternoon, listened to some live musicians, and he's here to tell his story, his journey, what made him who he is, the legend that is Mr. Greg Kerr.
Good morning. It's not afternoon yet, Hemi. Very happy to be here. Really, really excited to be on the podcast with you guys. So thanks very much for the invite. Looking forward to the conversation. Have to say, it doesn't really feel like Christmas for me because it's too warm, right? I associate Christmas with snow and frost, so it's very confusing going to buy a Christmas tree in shorts. I guess this is part of moving to Dubai recently and having all of these new experiences. So yeah, this weather at Christmas is very much a new thing for me. It's kind of fun, isn't it?
And the beauty of Dubai is you can get your Christmas tree delivered to your house. You don't even have to go and get it, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after a few years I'll never leave my house. I'm still old-fashioned, right? I go and get things in my car and drive them back myself. But yeah, it's been a fun 3 months.
I forget that you're still so new here, Greg, and obviously we saw recently 12 years, man. 12 years at Salesforce, 12 years anniversary. Just to say thank you as well, as it is the holiday season, we wanted to get you a little something. Our studio producer, P, if you can bring it out. No pressure if you don't want to wear it right now. I mean, the audience wants it.
Could it be interesting to see what this is, Hemi? Oh, merch.
He has such a low opinion of me.
Merch, fantastic. What have we got going on here? Okay,
I got you. I know you're a unit, Greg. I mean that in the big compliment.
I got to do the hat and not the t-shirt.
Come on, he's got to wear the hat. The t-shirt though, I think you'll like, man. I think you'll like the t-shirt. Wear that at home.
How do I look?
Like a legend, man. But mate, honestly, coming here, doing this, end of the year, again, I know you're new to Dubai still in terms of living here, but you've done so much work in the region for so many years. I suppose the first thing, how did your career start, Greg? We'll talk about where you are now, but a lot of people never really talk about the beginning. If you can walk us through that.
Well, yeah, as you said, 12 years in Salesforce, 12 weeks in Dubai, but I've been coming out here pretty much a month for 7 years. I'm 44. I'm from Dublin in Ireland. How did my career start? It's a really good question. I mean, I can't even really tell you when it started, right? I always liked to work, I remember being caught by my parents working in the local convenience store when I was supposed to be studying for exams. I had a paper round as a kid. I always had lots of jobs. So I guess I always had a mentality of working, right, and earning my own money and kind of being independent, and that kind of continued. So I went to university to study computer science, which I really enjoyed. I'm a techie at heart. I like engineering, I like software, I like bridges, I like cars. I've always been interested in science and technology. So I went to university to do a science degree, and I specialized in computer science. And I guess during it, right, I wanted my own money, right, for living, for beer, for fun, for travel. So, I always worked through university. And I actually, at one point during university, I got a job in AOL. I don't know if you remember America Online back in the day.
AOL Instant Messenger.
Are they still going?
Exactly. So this was in I think 1999, right? So I was studying.
Wow.
I was 19 years old. AOL at the time, if you lived in the UK or Ireland, you probably would remember, they used to send out CDs in the newspaper and people would set up their trial. So I ended up doing a part-time sales role, which put me through a couple of years of university. And yeah, it was a great gig, right? So people would get their CD, they'd go on the internet for the first time, they didn't really know how to use it, they didn't know what to do. they'd call up for a bit of help, and we'd kind of explain to them, oh, what do you like? You like football? Okay, I can help you get the scores of your favorite team, or read articles online, or other things like that. So, yeah, that was my first sales role, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed meeting new people, building rapport with people, helping people. It was really well paid, right? If you were successful at the role, you could make money. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. And then I was going to university in the daytime and learning all this cool stuff about technology. And then I was doing this sales role at evenings and weekends. And I really kind of enjoyed both. So I think that got me thinking, how can I kind of combine these two things that I'm really, really interested in?
Did you know as well, Greg, like when you did, because when I did sales for the first time, I remember they said I could sell sand to an Arab and ice to an Eskimo. Did you know? No, like legit. Like I'm not saying I was the greatest at that time. I was a rookie, right? Dude, I beat like 40 people. I was 16 years old. There was people with 20 years experience in this sales role. They were eliminating people round by round. It was insurance, and I managed to get it. But I knew that I had something after like a few months. Like I don't know if it was gift of the gab, but did you feel something like when you did that first sales role that?
It's a great question. And I think over the years, I maybe started out thinking there was a typical type of person who was a great salesperson. But over the years, from working with other people, from hiring, from seeing, different types of people be successful in different ways, I've kind of learned that there's a lot of different types of salespeople and a lot of people who are good in different ways. I've always enjoyed an argument. I've always enjoyed a conversation. I've always enjoyed a story. That AOL job, the interview was quite interesting because they got 14 candidates in a room together.
All in one?
For a group interview.
Fight over it.
That's a fight club.
Sell me this pen.
They gave us role plays to do. So it was
Greg just beat everyone up.
It was quite interesting. So, I didn't know if I was good at it or not, but I knew I enjoyed it. And then when I started the job, I saw you could be successful. It wasn't easy, right? But, if you were tenacious and if you worked hard, you could be successful. By the way, I can confirm that, Hemi could sell sand to the Arabs because I don't know if you remember how we met Hemi, but he basically stalked me, right? So I was getting all these phone calls from this random guy with a northern accent, Greg Kerr, the man, the myth, the legend.
And then send you 10 voice messages.
Exactly, voice notes, Yorgi. Like, why doesn't he type like a normal human being? I'm like, I'm in the car. I don't want to listen to your voice note.
He still played him though.
So
it came on the radio.
He stalked me over and over again, and eventually it worked. And eventually I called him back, and then we met, and here we are. So I think that's a good little vignette, right? Sales is about being persistent and going after what you want. So yeah,
that's why he gave me a chance as well, because he literally said on the 6th call, he was like, dude, like just because you're so persistent, you don't have to like bribe me with Macallans. I kept mentioning Macallans, like Greg, like I was just being stereotypical. Thought I'd throw in some whiskeys. Like, oh yeah, let's just grab a whiskey. And then I met him. And you know what sales is like, right? Like especially in the Middle East, like you've seen it, like working, owning a partner. You meet clients, wine and dine. But Greg was the opposite, man. He was like, why did you bring me to the Palm, to this place? Like let's just have a chat, get to know each other, and I think ended up being a great night, man. And we'll put the picture up.
After this podcast comes out, Greg, your phone is just going to explode with people following up with you. And
it
already does, man.
Little bit of advice, right? Only Hemi would try to bribe an Irishman with Scotch whiskey. So, do your homework, know your audience. But look, persistence is a great trait, right? And, good things come to those who keep trying. I recently had a coffee with somebody because I realized it was the 1-year anniversary of his first message to me on LinkedIn. And he just kept messaging me, kept chasing me because he wanted a role. And I met the guy and we had a great conversation and we're still talking, and I'm hiring at the moment. And, I think there's a line, right, that you have to be careful not to cross, right? Sometimes I get, a bit of omni-channel chasing from people and suddenly they're on your Facebook and it's like, okay, mate, calm down a little bit, But, I think in sales or in any other career or role, you have to be able to go after what you want, and it takes a little bit of work to make it happen. So yeah, and I think that's one of the things I enjoy about sales. Right, you meet people from all different walks of life. Like I said, you meet people who do it in different ways. Every time I work for somebody, every time I coach somebody, every time I mentor somebody, every time I meet somebody, I learn something. So that's what's really interesting about this as a career.
I had a pleasure of sitting with Greg's team as well. Like, great team. They've made such a big impact already in the region, but such a diverse team.
It's like the start of a very complicated joke, right? We've got an Irishman running a team with 8 people on it, and they're from 8 different countries, right? So Nathan is Belgian, Essam is Egyptian, Roddy's Jordanian, Pia's Thai, Ian's Irish, David's Canadian, Hisham is Algerian, and Ben is English. So yeah, we've got a really, really, really interesting team. Different personalities, different parts of the
Where'd you
world.
go next? I mean, you're hiring right now, so
Yeah, look,
have
it's
you seen
interesting.
great candidates, by the way?
Yeah, look, we're hiring, and we're seeing, we're hiring for 2 different roles. We're hiring for, somebody to cover the Saudi Arabian market for Mulesoft,
Big market.
in a senior sales role, and then we're hiring for somebody to cover the rest of the Middle East market, which for us is everywhere outside of UAE and Saudi, which has been a really, really exciting growth area for us too. And yeah, I mean, Dubai is such an interesting place to hire, right? That's probably the most interesting thing about Dubai for me is there's literally people from all over the world. It's such a melting pot. You've got people who've just arrived, people who've been here for 20 years, people from Asia, people from Africa, people from Europe, people from the Americas. So it's just super, super interesting. What's a bit overwhelming is just the numbers, right? So it's, you get a lot of applicants for roles here. You got to sift through them. You're trying to pick people out. You're trying to build, the right type of team, the right mix of characters. So it's a really interesting exercise, and it's something I'm still very much learning how to do.
When Greg put it on LinkedIn, he was like hiring for my team, and then he specified just please keep the messages direct, limited, and just follow the link. I was like, oh man, I wanted to message him and just be like, dude, just don't advertise it. But then if you don't advertise it, like if I put an advert out on LinkedIn, like I'll get probably like 2,000 messages. It's hard to reply to everyone.
How do you even go through those? Like, how do you even do the initial filter?
I was hoping Greg might have a PA or something.
Yeah, you got to be pretty senior in Salesforce to rate a PA. So I'm afraid I'm not at that level.
So you go through it yourself, like if you get messages. Like
No, look, I work with a recruiting partner, Patrice, and he's brilliant, and we do a lot of work kind of sifting through things. So look, it's a really fun thing to do, and it's something I take really seriously. If somebody's taken time to apply for a role, they deserve that you do them the service of seriously evaluating their application, or at least as best as you can. And I'm also very lucky, right? It's probably easy to be hiring in a company like Salesforce, in a market like the Middle East, where you've got a growth unit in a growth company in probably one of the most exciting regions in the world. So I'd love to think all these people want to come and work for Mulesoft Middle East because I'm such a great leader. But I think it might have to do with the lifestyle in Dubai, the growth opportunities available, the great product we sell. So it's a really, really interesting place to be at the moment, yeah.
I remember one of the things from Stephen's podcast when we had him on a couple months back was he said that drive was one of the key things that he looks for in candidates for sales roles. What are the things that stick out to you in terms of like the qualities or personality traits that you look for in people in your team, and like how do you make sure that you have a cohesive team with all of these different cultures and personalities coming together?
Yeah, it's a really good point by Stephen, and I agree. I think for me, I would say hunger, right, which is probably the same thing as drive, right. I think that's one of the things that you can't really teach, right. I think you can kind of teach most other things, right, but people have to want it. Sales is funny, right. It's not something you can get into because of qualifications necessarily or education, although I think that really helps. In some ways the barriers to entry are low. But the failure rate is very high, and it's always a roller coaster. So, yeah, it's about attitude, right? Like looking for people who are hungry, looking for people who can keep their head up when they hit a low, and keep their feet on the ground when they hit a high, because, for most people's sales career, it's a roller coaster. And when I interview people, like very successful people, you ask them about their performance and they'll say, 3 years ago, 200%, 2 years ago, 180%, last year, 40%, this year I'm tracking for 120%. And that's what it's like, So I think hunger is really important. I look for evidence of continuous learning, right? People who have a growth mindset, people who like to learn new things. Doesn't have to be necessarily sales or business related, but I think that shows flexibility, mental flexibility, curiosity. I think curiosity is a really important trait for many careers, and I think if you look at the way the world is going now, with a lot of things being automated, with the rise of really sophisticated AI tool sets, I think I place more and more of a premium on things like curiosity, creativity, hunger, because I think they're a really good foundation. And I think if you combine those with intelligence, that gives you a tool set that allows you to adapt and face most circumstances. I think as the years go by, knowing a bunch of stuff just becomes less and less important. So I love to see people who've reinvented themselves, who've done new things, who've re-educated themselves multiple times, because I think the reality is most of us don't know what our jobs are going to look like exactly in 2 or 3 years, which is why we work in this industry. It's exciting, right?
It might end. And you mentioned education, Greg, on the post that you put out to thank a lot of people, right? Like, you got a hell of a response. And I think one of the things that you mentioned, I think a lot of people do want to work for you, which is testament to you, right? But what part did education play for you? Because continuous learning when you're in sales sometimes with a lot of salespeople, including myself, is very difficult. You feel that you've clocked it, you're doing great, you're living in the moment. You don't really think about the 2-3 year afterwards, right? And if the market's going to change. For you, what impact did it have?
Yeah, it's really difficult to find the time, Hemi. You're right. And I think sales, like most things, right, the biggest problem you face is balancing your time, right? Where do I invest my time? If you reach the end of a fiscal year and you've invested your time in the right places, you'll probably have been successful, and if you weren't as successful as you would have liked to be, you'll probably feel that you did your best. Like it's investing our time in the wrong places that we regret. I think education is something you have to make time for. For me, it's been really important. I think one of the kind of values and attributes of Salesforce that really attracted me in the first place was the focus on education and the support for employee education. So as you said, when I was celebrating my 12-year anniversary, I was kind of reflecting on how I've changed in those 12 years. And, a lot of that's around the people I've met, the experiences I've had, the jobs I've done. But it's also around education. So, yeah, I was fortunate enough to get a master's while I was in Salesforce. I was fortunate enough to certify as an enterprise architect. I was fortunate enough to do a lot of really, really interesting leadership training, both inside the company, like the Accelerate program, and externally. So I've been following a track called a General Management Certificate in Cambridge Business School, which has been really, really interesting. So, yeah, I think all of these things, give you different tools that you can use to try to learn and improve. And I think you're never done learning. And for me, I don't think you're ever really done working either. I read a really interesting article in The Economist recently about retirement, and the conclusion was, don't ever retire. It's the worst thing you can do for your mental and physical health, right? So for me, kind of learning and working is a continuous thing because I think it brings a lot of benefits, and it's really interesting, we were talking about that on the way up here earlier, right? Sitting around doing nothing is kind of overrated, right? It's fun for a day
Here
or two.
on a Saturday. And I think that's like, with Dubai, is the convenience helps you, don't you feel? Like we were talking about it, right? Like, apps that you can literally get anything delivered, IV drips, doctors, spas, haircuts. But you have then more time to do other things to be more efficient. But then Dubai moves super quick. Have you felt that at all, Greg? Just like sidestepping, like compared to Ireland, have you felt that Dubai is very fast paced and your time
it's just
gets utilized really quickly?
It's a double-edged sword, It's like you can get so consumed in all of that convenience that you kind of forget about yourself and forget to, it just enables you to like work too much and network too much and forget about yourself.
But then like you move to Dubai for work, but then you've got to enjoy what Dubai has to offer as well. That's one thing, because it's not, Eva said it as a last guest, we're not going to be here potentially forever, right? So, I've not even been to Kite Beach yet, dude.
She said she was in the region for like 20 years and then never even went to Amman. It's like, it's right next door.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying, right? Dubai is, I think, full of hustlers. And I mean that in a very good way, right? Everybody's got a plan, everybody's got a goal, everybody's working hard, and I think, do I feel that in Dublin? Yeah, but I think there's a different kind of pace here, right? And I think it's due to lots of things, right? It's mostly immigrants, right? Like we all came here from other places, right? I think there's less of a safety net here than there is in other places, right? Like if you're not successful and you don't have a job, you got to leave, and I think that environment is kind of contagious as well. When you're somewhere that's entrepreneurial, where other people are moving fast, you move fast, So I really enjoy that, When I try to explain Dubai to people back in Europe, maybe who've never been here, the analogy I use is it's kind of like New York or London 100 years ago, right? It's somewhere that's sucking in people from all around the region who kind of have a dream, who want to be successful, who want to build a future. Like, I love talking to people here, whether it's, somebody who works in retail, or your Uber driver from Pakistan, or somebody Indian who's working in IT, or a person from Africa who
Everyone's
who
grinding,
looks after your kids, and you ask about their plan, and it's like, oh, I'm saving up to buy a mango farm, or I'm putting my
I feel like the stereotypes are unreal today. But
or I'm putting my brother through university, or and I think the reasons people do these things, like people's whys, are really, really important, and
So
I think this place is really interesting from that point of view. I do worry about becoming too pampered, right? Like you guys said, everything delivered, everything on tap. You pick up the phone and somebody comes and helps you out straight away. So yeah, I wonder what it would be like to go back to reality after here. I can see how people find it difficult to leave, right?
You get used to the bubble and then you can never leave.
Exactly. So yeah, it's an interesting place. I'm only here 12 weeks, but I've already been to Oman.
Have you?
Yeah. We did a road trip. I had some visitors over about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we drove down to Muscat. It was absolutely stunning. Beautiful drive, great city. I'd been there before for business. We had great fun haggling in the souk, relaxing.
I'd love to see a Greg Kerr haggle. Like, I feel like it's in my DNA. My mum brought me up to haggle. Like, in Indian culture, if you don't haggle, like, you're a disgrace to the race, dude. Like how she would go, like, mate, she would haggle, like, even go into like the consumer stores that you wouldn't imagine, like a McDonald's or something. Like, no, you can give me some extra fries, like, you can. It's like, no, like, he's 16, he can't, mum. But for you, Greg, I was gonna say, like, you do some crazy mileage, dude. Like, you do a lot of travel. It's part of the job that, from the outside looking in, people think it's attractive, but it obviously takes its toll. Is that because Mulesoft right now is just growing that fast that you just have to keep traveling? And obviously it's part of the region and part of the job, right? Like, face to face, meeting people, still very old school like that, where shaking hands is still a thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, I think happily for my health, for my family, for the environment, my air miles are going down significantly, right? So I used to cover a lot more of the world, right? I used to spend a lot of time in Africa, for example, Eastern Europe, Turkey. Now I'm just focused on Middle East. I used to be coming here from Europe, so almost every month I was out here for a week. Now I'm in the middle of the region in Dubai, but my team, as you said, Hemi, covers the whole region, right? So that's Egypt, it's Oman, it's Jordan, it's Qatar, it's Saudi, obviously. We have customers in Palestine, Lebanon. So, we have a really, really broad base in the region, and I think being here now enables me to get around. I was in Amman on Thursday. Great city, great country. I really, really like doing business in Jordan. I'm in Riyadh on Tuesday, but I think being in the center of the region, allows us to get around a lot more easily. So yeah, I think, it's a Middle East operation, right? It's not just a UAE operation, right? This is our base and our headquarters, and I think you'll see further expansion in the region over the next few years, and I love getting around the Middle East, right, and learning about the different cultures, the different economies, talking to people in the different countries, learning how they're all different. There's a big difference between Dubai and Cairo or Riyadh or Muscat or Amman, so it's fantastic, and I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface. Like, there's so many places in the Middle East I haven't been that I'd love to go to.
There was someone that was on a call with you, actually. I think it was with a potential client, and they were like, dude, the guy's just a beast, man. Like, they're like, in a good way. Like, they were like, Greg is just like phenomenal, man. Like, the way he just leads the call, the client, like, hats off, man.
Absolutely. And how was your transition over from AOL to Salesforce and Mulesoft? Take us through that journey.
So after university, I went and worked for Dell, who had a huge sales operation in Dublin, and I did a whole bunch of different sales jobs. First one was consumer sales, right? So I was on the phone. Somebody calls up to buy a laptop and you're having a chat to them, you know? So it was a really, really interesting place to start. Only did that for a few months, and then I worked in a bunch of different business sales roles. It was really, really interesting. It was a kind of a sales university in Dublin, I would say. You know, there was like 1,000 people working there. That was the whole European sales operation was headquartered there. At one point, you know, sales out of that operation, I think, were a couple of $1 billion a year. And all of the Dell kit in Europe was manufactured in Ireland as well. So at one point, Dell was over 5% of Ireland's exports, just that one company. So it was a really cool place to work and to learn. And again, people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And then after Dell, I went to Google. So I moved from, I guess, tech sales into media. And worked in a really, really cool company. Still have a lot of friends from both Dell and Google times, and really enjoyed both parts of the journey. Then I decided to set my own business up, so I did that for 5 years. So I ran a digital agency. So
big transition, that, Greg.
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. It was scary, Hemi.
We talked about it because I had just set up
Yeah.
TSI right here for the Salesforce market, and he was like, "Man, like, I've been there." That first
Yeah, and
year,
I think-
and you've obviously experienced it.
It's not only the first year. I'm sure that all 5 years were.
Yeah. And I
were
mean,
a
like,
journey.
I loved the experience. In hindsight, I probably would have done it for 2 years less. You know, I discovered, you know, I'm not a facilities guy or an accountant or a head of HR. You know, I've certain things I'm good at and that I enjoy, and I've certain things that, you know, I'm not very good at. But it was a really interesting experience trying to build something like that. You know, lots of success, lots of failure. I think it's quite humbling, you know. At one point I remember, you know, handing somebody a business card that said CEO on it, you know, and they were kind of asking me for advice. They were a bit downtrodden because they were struggling to find a job, and I had to explain that I'd borrowed some money off my little sister the day before, you know. So that's the life of being a solopreneur, you know.
It's like the roller coaster you were describing for sales, but like on steroids. It's just
Exactly,
it's
and
crazy.
it's kind of lonely as well, right? If you're used
Super
to
lonely.
if you're used to being in a big company, part of a team, boss who tells you what to do, you know, all of that supporting infrastructure around. You know, working for yourself can be a bit scary.
Why do you think I send the voice notes all the time? Like,
Hemi
it's the
just
only
wants a-
interaction I get. Dude.
He just wants a chat and a hug.
Guy leaves me
a call
on
for
red
help.
for like 2 days. I'm like, come on, Greg. No, he does reply. She hates it, but no, it is super lonely. I found that going from working in organizations and teams to just being on my own, working remote at home and not in an office. It's so isolating, dude.
When I started in Salesforce, my first boss, a great American guy by the name of Steve May, he asked me in an interview, you know, you've been working for yourself for the last 5 years. What's it going to be like having a boss? You know, are you gonna hate me? You know, are you gonna find me annoying? I was like, I can't wait. You know, I'm really looking forward to someone else having
Someone
to
else
make all
making
these difficult
decisions
decisions. You know, just tell me where to go and what to do. You know, and it was in a way very refreshing. You know, after working for yourself to come back and have that comfort blanket of an organization around you and support services and other things. And I think for me, you know, I definitely, you know, like you guys have an entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's what's really nice about sales, right? You know, there's the old cliche that if you work in sales, you're the CEO of your own business, right? You're renting a desk and a phone and a territory off the company, but you know, what you do is up to you and the rewards are up to you. So I think, you know, sales is a good fit for people who have that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, and maybe it's a bit less scary and lonely than working by yourself. You know?
Did you have any? Because I know mentorship's important to you, and I know we've mentioned it with different guests. What does mentorship mean to you, and did you have any great ones along the way that have shaped you in your journey?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think. You know, it's really important to try to learn from other people and learn from people who've gone ahead of you down the path, and also learn from people with different experiences. So, yeah, I think that's been something that's huge for me over my whole career, my whole life, right? starting with my mum and dad, right, who've both had interesting experiences and careers themselves, and I definitely have got a lot from them, like a love of education and reading and information and knowledge. My dad put himself through university. My mum, changed career in the middle of her life. She was a nurse, and then she went back and did an open university degree and became a psychologist. So they've been real role models and mentors to me. And then look, so many people in my career. I probably don't want to name names, right, because people are going to feel left out. But yeah, absolutely. I think what I've kind of learned over the years is that if you go and ask somebody for help, they very rarely say no. You just got to ask. And Salesforce is a great example of that. I've gone and talked to various people, who've spent time with me, who've helped move me forward, who can be a sounding board when you're stuck or worried or upset or anxious. And I think it's something hugely positive. And it's something really that kind of took me down my journey of towards being a leader. I was very happy being an individual contributor, running my own life, running my own calendar, kind of deepening my knowledge and ability in sales, and I think what started pulling me towards leadership was really enjoying mentoring people. So I find that a hugely fulfilling experience to work with people, to understand their goals, where they want to go, to try to help them go in that direction, to get to be there, to watch them develop, to watch them get to where they want to be. So that's something that I find hugely fulfilling, right? Being a leader isn't always fun. There's, difficult decisions you got to take. There's things that you're going to get wrong. You're not always the most popular person sometimes, and there's aspects of the job I don't enjoy, right? Like most people, right? I don't like doing admin. I don't like, those aspects of it. But I think the people part is super interesting. So, yeah, I think I would encourage anybody who wants to move their career forward to be a mentee and be a mentor. Go and look for people who are where you want to be, or who you admire, and ask them for their time. Ask them 3 times. I always say that to people, like, follow up, right? Everybody's busy.
That's
right?
exactly what I did, Greg. That's why we're
see?
here, man. That's why we're here, dude.
Hemi's a
No
great,
one answers the first call.
Hemi's a
Double
great
dial.
example. Hemi's a great example. So ask people, and they'll help you, and then give back, right? No matter where you are in your journey, there's somebody who can benefit from your knowledge. Whether it's helping somebody with their CV, or helping someone find a job, or helping someone get some work experience, or coaching somebody for an interview, or helping someone be better with money, or any of these things. So I think we can all give back a little bit, whether it's working with a charity or whether it's mentoring people, and we can all benefit from the kindness and wisdom of other people. And again, my experience is most people are just nice, right? So if you go and ask people for help, explain why you want their help and time, I've yet to really have someone say no to me.
I feel like you're so down to earth. That's why your reputation precedes itself. Like, people just can have a genuine chat with you and move away from that wearing a mask, trying to sell. Like, when we met, it was just a genuine open chat. We didn't even talk about business, I don't think. Like, we just talked about life. If anyone's struggling to network, and there are introverts in tech, right? Especially when we look at the ecosystem, many techies, they don't like putting themselves out there, and I get it. It's tough. Any advice from someone who meets people day in, day out, gets hundreds of cold calls from people like myself, like, on the networking side, how important is it?
Yeah, look, it's really important to meet people and spend time with people and build relationships and learn from people, and that's probably naturally easier for a salesperson than it is for a typical engineer, or a stereotypical engineer. Like, I sometimes feel that, interviewing people for jobs, it's probably the fairest for salespeople, right? Because you're interviewing for them for a job where communication and presentation skills are very important, and controlling a conversation and controlling a room. If you're interviewing a software developer, there's not a great match between the skills required to be good at software development and the skills required to be good at interviewing. So I think it's about understanding your personality type, understanding what you find find difficult, working on it and practicing it, right? There isn't a job in the world where communication skills aren't important. Being part of a team isn't important. Spending time with people isn't important. And there are lots of ways people can get more comfortable with that. Maybe being part of a sports team, or if you're really uncomfortable speaking in public, do something like Toastmasters, or
do a podcast.
Do a podcast. As I said to you guys beforehand, this is definitely not my comfort zone, right? Sitting in front of cameras with lights, etc. So, yeah, it's exciting to do new things, but I think getting out and meeting people is really important. And I think you made a really important point, Hemi. Like, don't wear a mask, right? Be yourself. Apart from anything else, I think it's too exhausting keeping up a performance the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like building that trust as sales is one of the super key things that, the customer wants to feel that you are really looking out for their best interest, not that you're just trying to hit your quota. You're trying to give them a solution that solves their problem, and it's mutually beneficial for both of you.
Yeah, and look, I think that's something that attracted me to Salesforce and kept me at Salesforce, right? Trust is the number one company value, right? And I think there's this stereotype of salespeople, gift of the gab, come in, tell a bunch of lies, disappear with your money, never be seen again, right? And, I think that's not the reality, right? The reality is, sales is about building good relationships, right? Delivering on what you say, being curious, understanding people's problems, understanding where you're not the right solution, right? Like part of sales is knowing when to fold them, right? Like this isn't the deal for me. This isn't the customer for me. This isn't the problem for me.
But they'll appreciate that you were straight up, right? And that relationship then might be a referral to someone else, and who then says, Greg's a stand-up guy. He gave us honest advice.
And we see that happen a lot. Like if I look at my team, right, they're all really straight up people, right? They like to engage with customers. They're honest. They all behave with integrity. And what you see people who leave a company and turn up somewhere else. Like we closed a deal recently with somebody where the CIO was working at a different organization where we engaged with them and lost a deal. And 2 years later, he moves to a new organization. He picked up the phone and contacted us, because he liked kind of how we handled ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what's important, right? It's being honest about what you're doing. Like Jorgi, you said, you're not just trying to hit your quota. Like in sales, you are trying to hit your quota, right? And it's important to be honest about that, right? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to sell my product or solution. What are you trying to do? We'll try and help you with that. And it's about being honest and straightforward.
People buy off people, right, Greg?
Yeah, exactly. And we all like a bit of competition. There's other people selling other stuff out there. We enjoy beating them. I'm sure they enjoy beating us. But it's also important to be able to feel like you've done things the right way afterwards. And if you commit things to people and you don't deliver on them, word gets around. And then,
reputation in this region's ruined.
Then people don't talk to you.
You're banished.
Especially in the Middle East.
Especially in the Middle East.
People talk, right? It's
such a small
yeah,
market, though, right? Like even from KSA to UAE. On that note, I think so many people in Mule were excited because, again, you were a heavily requested guest. A lot of people in the Mulesoft world globally, and you said at the beginning, a lot of them want to move to the Middle East. Without going too in depth, like 2024 has been an amazing year. Your team's growing. You're now here in the region. Any predictions for 2025 for Mulesoft?
And before you answer, editor, please throw up the safe harbor slide.
He's not speaking on behalf of Mulesoft. Yeah, this is Greg's personal opinion.
Yeah, and look, I think it's been a really exciting journey, right? Salesforce is growing in the region. I think we finally put down roots here, right? We've now got a sizable amount of employees in the Middle East. I think you'll see further exciting announcements and developments over the next 12 months in the region. I'm not going to go into details. In terms of Mulesoft, I think My team is growing, right? I have 2 open roles at the moment, right? So I'm hiring.
Just don't message him too much directly.
Voice
Send him
messages are
voice
key.
notes.
I'm hiring salespeople, and I think our business will continue to grow in the region, and I think what's really exciting is it's growing everywhere, right? There's really exciting things happening in Saudi Arabia with everything the government is doing, Vision 2030. I think there's UAE is a really, really big engine of our business, and is continuing to grow. We're continuing to land new customers, to grow existing customers. And then we talked about how diverse the Middle East is, right? There's exciting things happening all across the region. So I think we'll continue that growth. I think we'll continue growing our team. I think we'll continue growing our customer base. I think we'll continue doing more business in more locations. And I think it's going to be a really, really exciting year in 2025.
Big year, man. I can't wait. Gee, and we forgot one thing.
Oh yeah, as an Irish man, we got you something special.
Oh, fantastic! I'm excited to see what this is.
P, if you want to join in, I'm shouting you out, dude. It's the end of the year. You made Pushing the Limits an epic podcast, man. There's still a long way to go, but dude, without you, the editing, the magic doesn't happen. So please, if you want to grab one. It's alcohol free, by the way. We'll put the disclaimer up if you want to. This is alcohol free. I know it's pushing the limits, but I don't want to get banned.
The most important thing about this is when we were planning to do this, I told Hemi what I was planning to do, and he was like, "Dude, I've never had a Guinness in my life."
Yeah, Greg, can you believe that? I've never had a Guinness.
I was like, "Are you English or?"
Mate, I'm Indian, man. I grew up on whiskey. It was like in the blood at 8 years old. And I don't know why. Just never had an opportunity to have Guinness, and then whiskey took over.
Would you like the good news or the bad news, gentlemen?
What?
We can drink a Guinness together, but you can't drink a Guinness out of the can.
Really?
No. You need. If I was videoed on this podcast drinking a
Can you get one, dude?
Drinking a Guinness out of a can.
Yeah, come on.
Your Irish citizenship would get revoked.
My Irish citizenship would be revoked.
Dude, mine's leaking already. I got mince pies as well, so I think what we should do, this is my first time trying Guinness. Let's chug the Guinness.
Please
and
don't
then hit
do
it with a mince pie.
Please don't do it.
Why?
You cannot drink Guinness out of a can. It's
This
just
is illegal.
Greg,
You need to
we
slam
got no
your
glasses,
water.
man.
It's just not possible.
We got no glasses.
You can do it, and I'll explain
No,
why.
come on, you got to chug it.
There's absolutely.
Have we got a glass? Can someone get a glass? We'll get a glass. Get 3 glasses. Let me have a mince pie. Come on, man. We got to have a mince pie. I've got these. I made these especially. I was up at 6 a.m. making these mince pies.
Absolutely.
From Spinneys.
No, Costa actually. I went for the good stuff. Greg Kerr's it. It's a good mince pie, dude. Am I the only one?
I'm good.
Got macaroons. Christmas shaped macaroons.
If I was seen on a podcast drinking a non-alcoholic directly out of the can, I would literally never be able to go
This
back
is
to
like
Ireland.
3 levels of illegal.
Yeah, this isn't even a pint glass. Like this is just so wrong.
I actually was
Grab
in
a mince pie,
Ireland
man.
earlier in the year and went to the Guinness factory and got like the Guinness glasses and everything.
Right, do the honours. Gee, I don't want to spill it. So can you
Okay,
do that?
pass. Okay, so you want me to pour a non-alcoholic Guinness into a non-pint glass?
It's the Middle East, man.
Okay, this is some bad shit right here, Hemi.
I'm still rolling, by the way.
So this is the usual
Look at the way
trick
you did
I
it.
use.
Gee, you did it
pouring
like,
these.
I don't know, man.
I'm an Irishman.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't hit him with your Irish accent. Come on, dude.
What's the crack? What's the crock, mate?
Do it again.
Lad.
Do it again.
What's the crack, lad?
Did you spend some time in Ireland, Georgie? Sorry.
I lived there for 5 years. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. In
No,
Dublin.
I'm just kidding. I was just there for like a week. That's
you
great.
So
you gotta pour mine,
so the
please.
first thing you do is pour, and then you got to let it settle.
Get in the shot, dude.
You can see it settling here.
This is the end of year Christmas special, man. I want to say thank you as well. We hit over 6,000 subs. I know it's not crazy, we're not Joe Rogan here, but still 6,000 in 4 months. And we got merch coming as well. Greg's rocking it. That's the new hat. We're good. So how long you got to let it settle? I've never done this.
So it needs to go, well, not quite black, right? It's actually ruby red, but you can, once it looks dark, I think it's safe to drink.
I can't believe I've never had a Guinness, man. But I feel like if you're going to try it for the first time,
So as we say
it shouldn't be alcohol free.
As we say in Ireland, sláinte, which means
Slow
health.
GP.
Sláinte.
Slow G.
Out of the can. Oh no.
Smells.
Pushing the limits.
Pushing the
Cheers.
limits.
Happy holidays. Merry
Thanks,
Christmas.
gentlemen. I've enjoyed this morning.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, I think I'll stick to Macallan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right. It's just, it's like...
It's an acquired
It's supposed
taste.
to taste like lager.
A lot of people say it tastes like cold coffee.
And
feel like
is it supposed to
actually-
be very filling as well? Like a lot of people...
It's
like,
actually so.
it's got a lot of iron in it.
There's less calories in Guinness than in Bud Light.
Really?
Yep. So it's actually and it's full of iron. Yeah.
nice, actually.
Pregnant women in Ireland used to drink a small bottle of Guinness every day because it was it stopped you getting anemia. This isn't going on the podcast.
It is. We're still rolling, Greg. This is...
I know you're rolling, but I've got edit rights, and this ain't going on the podcast.
We're cutting all of this out.
Yeah.
It's all right, man. Like, I don't think I'll order, but would
So-
you say that if you're going to
It's
try
close
it,
to the
you've
real
got to
thing.
be in...
Are we done with the shooty bit? Yeah?
No. I'm still, you can take it off, though, Greg. I mean,
'cause
there was no,
I don't want your merch to get a bad rep. Do I have a red line across my forehead?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
That's for you. The T-shirt, though, mate. Honestly, thank you for being here. I would love to probably carry on another time having an actual Guinness, which isn't alcohol-free.
Yeah, you know what we'll...
Georgie, thank you, man.
You know what we'll do, guys? I'll bring you to a carefully selected bar in Dubai that does acceptable Guinness.
McGettigan's.
And we'll take a video of ourselves drinking a nice pint of proper Guinness. Okay.
We'll put that picture up, man.
in a
You
pint
heard
glass, poured by a professional. Okay.
it. Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks
Greg.
very much,
Greg.
guys. Really enjoyed it
Thank
today.
you, man.
Thanks.
Happy
thanks-
holidays.
Thanks
Happy New
for the
Year.
opportunity to be
P.
here.
Take
Thank
it
you
out.
very much,
Take him
guys.
out. Hit him with it.